Mr President, our aim should be not only to reduce Europe's CO2 emissions, but also to do so at least possible cost. Europe's economy must be competitive. And for this reason, it would be wrong to commit ourselves to the development of particular technologies to the exclusion of others. And the Commission will be right to propose a 2030 low-carbon technology without specifying how it should be reached, because the solution will vary from one country to another. Sometimes renewable energy will play a large part. Elsewhere, there will be a role for carbon capture and storage. CCS technology can allow us to use fossil fuels to keep the lights on even when the wind isn't blowing and the sun isn't shining. And just as we remove the SOx and the NOx from modern power stations, we should get used just as automatically to removing the CO2. And CCS is the only means of achieving large reductions in emissions from the steel, cement and other major industrial installations. CCS technology is proven, but it is capable of great improvements and cost reductions. We see this time and again as technologies are developed. We always think of the mobile telephone. 20 years ago it was like a brick, and now it's the size of a matchbox or smaller. But even given our present knowledge, the Zero Emissions Platform and major engineering companies like Alstom say that CCS will be cheaper per unit of low-carbon electricity than offshore wind, and in many cases much cheaper than solar. And it's clear from the geologists that Europe has an abundance of potentially safe CO2 storage sites, though they're not always in the most convenient places. So it's a great disappointment that progress in Europe has all but ground to a halt. The Council declared in 2007 that it wanted up to 12 demonstration plants to be in operation by 2015. In fact, we'll be lucky if we have the construction of even one plant authorised by that date. Now, governments have thrown money at renewable energy projects, but relied entirely on the CO2 price to promote business investment in CCS. The collapse in that price has taken away the financial justification, as well as slashing the value of the NER 300 subsidies we could offer. Renewable energy would have gone the same way were it not receiving specific governmental support. Even in my own country, the UK, where there's cross-party support for CCS, we've yet to see construction cranes in action. Europe's priority should be to get a range of flagship projects up and running. We must learn by doing. And we need the Commission to come forward with a new strategy, and I hope the ideas in this report will contribute to that. The central feature must be a requirement that governments prepare long-term CO2 reduction plans. CCS can only happen when governments support it, but some of them will only appreciate its value when they actually have to explain how they're going to achieve 80% and more reductions. And although I endorse the idea of creating a new European Innovation Fund, I recognise that the majority of funding will have to come from Member States. The Commission must ensure that CCS is placed financially on a level playing field. Now, let's keep in mind the big picture. Across the world, CO2 emissions are rising fast. 40% of global electricity comes from coal, and coal is expected to be the single largest source of electricity generation even in 30 years' time across the world. And we have got to deal with the emissions from fossil fuels. It's not surprising that the International Energy Agency stresses the importance of developing CCS. And we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that there are business opportunities here for European companies. There are jobs that can be created. Europe has lost its leadership in the development of solar technology. And with so many CCS projects underway elsewhere in the world, it's at risk of losing out in the development of CCS technology. For the sake of our climate and our economy, Madam President, let us embrace the full range of technologies that are available to help us reduce our CO2 emissions. And let us make CCS happen.